Hi, this is Rolf from Tesla Owners US, and today I'm bringing you a video from something what I really long time thought about it, but I have some stake in it because my daughter has asthma and a friend of mine has a diesel. So you figured it out, it's about Dieselgate, and I'll show you some comparison between the US, what happened there, and between Germany.
I pressed to say
Okay, that's a diesel, you can hear it from the sound. And we're gonna interview Jolle about his diesel and about the experience what he made with his diesel. Good, in comparison to the Tesla. So, hello Jolle.
Hello.
Hey. Hallo. Hallo, grüß dich.
Hello.
So, Jolle, so we're gonna do a little interview with Jolle about his diesel. So, as you can hear, so do you get a little bit of the differences between the diesel in the US and the diesel in Germany? So, Jolle, you bought the diesel about a couple of years ago, right? So, wann hast du den Diesel gekauft?
Genau, also ich habe den gekauft, weil Diesel wurde ja in Deutschland immer sehr favorisiert. Ist vom Verbrauch auch sehr gut, 5-6 Liter verbraucht er auf 100. Und habe mir den gekauft vor 2 Jahren für rund 13.000 € und bin auch absolut happy und zufrieden gewesen mit dem Fahrzeug.
Yeah, so Jolle bought his diesel about a few years ago for about 13,000 €, it's about $15,000, and he was happy because the fuel consumption is not that big or it's not that high, because diesel has a whole higher energy value. That's why you can come further with the diesel, because the energy value in a diesel is higher as in a fuel car. So in that case, from the consumption, energy consumption, not from the consumption itself, had a higher consumption. So and that time the diesel was praised. This is actually a Skoda which belongs to Volkswagen, probably has the same engine like any other cars in there. And so let me tell you about this. You know about the story in the US, what happened to the diesels there. Okay, we have to start there a little bit earlier. And a little bit earlier is actually quite some early. Because quite some early is when that all started, and have to page all the way back, is the EU introduces the new rules for car makers to prohibit so-called defeat devices. So kind of cheating with the software, the emission tests. That was 2007. And 2011, the EU Commission Joint Research Center found also out that there are levels of very harmful nitrogen dioxides emissions that exceed the EU level up to 14 times on different car models. That was not, and that was in 2011, it was not reacted on. 2014, a study was conducted by the International Council of Clean Transportation, reveals that excessive volumes in several Volkswagen cars sold in the US. And actually that brought some people from the guys of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, on the idea that they would have to check these cars. Now, when it really started, and probably you heard about that, was in September 2015, where the Environmental Protection Agency in the US found out of illegal installation of manipulation devices. And VW had to admit, or admitted, that they installed those defeat devices in their cars. And this was affecting about 500,000 cars in the US with the EA189 engine, what Volkswagen put in a whole bunch of other cars. So the corresponding transportation minister, Alexander Dobrindt, we call him Dobrindt, he found out about that from the newspaper, and I don't think so.
And the allegations to Boss rises again as well, whereby actually Boss has warned Volkswagen many years ago that this is an illegal device and an illegal software which can only be used for testing and cannot be used for other possibilities to use it in real world. The CEO Martin Winterfeld actually resigned and said he did not know about that, whereby the CEO Matthias Müller was put as the head of Volkswagen. So this was affected by the company about, let's say, for Audi, Skoda, probably all of the Volkswagen diesels.
They had all been given back, been put on a big parking lot where thousands of those diesel were, and the courts decided that they could get a new car or could return the car there, and these cars are staying there right now. They have to be turned into cars which can drive according to their laws. They have to be turned or switched, and they cannot be exported to other countries.
So first, the consequences in the United States. What was the result? VW was suspended sales of any TDI-equipped cars in the US on September 20th, 2015. Guys, that was more than 3 years ago. On September 21st, 2015, the EPA announced that should the allegation be proven, Volkswagen Group could face fines up to $30,500 per vehicle, about $18 billion in total fines. In addition to possible civil fines, the United States Department of Justice and Natural Resource Division were doing a crime probe of Volkswagen's AG conduct. The United States House of Energy submitted an oversight investigation, announces that they would hold a hearing into the Volkswagen scandal with New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman said that the investigation was already underway. What else? On October 6, 2015, the EPA decided that its broadened investigation to end 28 diesel-powered models made by BMW, Chrysler, General Motors, Land Rover, Mercedes-Benz. So it seemed to be that they're all involved. On January 4, 2016, the Justice Department, on behalf of the EPA, filed a lawsuit in the Federal Court of Detroit to the complaint seeking about $46 billion in penalties of the Clear Air Act violations. Regards to the Volkswagen equipped with the 2.0 and the 3.0 liter engines causing nitrogen pollution, nitrogen oxide pollution, and so on. So the officials VW citing German law in order to documents from groups that investigated the company's action. Schneiderman also complained about Volkswagen's slowness in producing documents from the US files, claiming the company has sought to delay response until the completeness of independent investigation from some months. On January 12, 2016, US regulators rejected VW's recall plans for all of the affected 2.0 liter diesel engines. On March 29, 2016, Volkswagen was additionally sued by the Federal Court Commission for false advertisement. False advertisement means clean diesel. Now, settlement. What happened to their cars and the settlement? On October 25, 2016, a final settlement was approved by a judge. About 475,000 Volkswagen owners in the US can choose between a buyback, a free fix and compensation if a repair becomes available. Volkswagen will begin administering the settlement immediately, having already devoted several hundred of employees to handle the process. Buybacks range in the value from $12,000 to $44,000, including restitution payments and varying based on mileage. People who opt for a fix approved by the Environmental Protection Agency will receive payouts ranging from $5,100 to $9,852, depending on their book value of the car. Of the buyback 138,000 has been completed by February 18, 2017, which 150,000 more to be returned. 52,000 choose to keep their cars, 67,000 diesels cars from model year 2015 were cleared of repairs but left uncertainty about the future of 325,000. Volkswagen also pays a $2.7 billion environmental mitigation and another $2 billion for a clean emission US subsidiary called Electrify America. They're actually building charging station in America. So that was the action and the settlement taking from the US.
So now that's a little bit different in Germany, because the lobby is way bigger in Germany as it is in the US.
What happened in Germany at that time? In September 2015, former Volkswagen Chief Executive Officer Martin Winterkorn resigned of the scandal and saying that he had no knowledge of the manipulation. Sure that he had no knowledge of the manipulation of the emission results. 1 week later, the prosecutors launched an investigation against him. On October 1st, a German prosecutor clarified it was looking into allegation of fraud from unidentified individuals, but Winterkorn was not under formal investigation. On October 8, 2015, police raided VW Volkswagen headquarters. As of 16th of October 2015, 20 investigators worked in the case targeting more than 2 but fewer than 10 Volkswagen staff. As of November 2015, the Kraftfahrtbundesamt, or the Federal Authority of Vehicles, tested 50 cars from their different manufacturers, both in laboratory and in on-road with PMES. In May 2016, German Transport Minister Alexander Dobrindt said that Volkswagen, Audi, Mercedes, Opel, Porsche would all adjust settings that increased emission levels, such as nitrogen dioxide in some of the diesels. On March 2017, German authorities raided the headquarters of Audi in Bavaria and Volkswagen in Wolfsburg. So far, nothing has happened. There was one thing happened, that the Audi boss Rupert Stadler was arrested in 2018 for 4 months, but then getting a jail-free card later on because they couldn't keep him longer. That's what happened in Germany at the same time.
So in the US, you're going against the law. What has happened there? You will be going into prison.
Carries both criminal and civil penalties. As part of this resolution, Volkswagen is pleading guilty to 3 felonies: conspiracy to defraud the United States, to commit wire fraud, and to violate the Clean Air Act, obstruction of justice, and importation of goods by false statements. Furthermore, we are today announcing the indictment of 6 former high-level Volkswagen executives: Richard Dorenkamp, Bernd Gottweiss, Jens Hodler, Heinz Jacob Neuser, Jürgen Peter, and Oliver Schmidt. Now, the agreement also requires Volkswagen to pay $4.3 billion in criminal and civil penalties, one of the largest clean air penalties ever achieved, and also requires them to take specific measures to prevent future violations. Hundreds of thousands of cars that Volkswagen sold in the United States were pumping illegal levels of nitrogen oxides into our atmosphere, up to 40 times more than the amounts permitted under federal law. Now, what's more, these vehicles were equipped with software that masked the true amount of the pollutants the cars released, thwarting the regulators who were doing the environmental testing. To be clear, Volkswagen knew of these problems, and when regulators expressed concern, Volkswagen obfuscated, they denied, and they ultimately lied. But this announcement does not mean that our investigation is complete. We will continue to examine Volkswagen's attempts to mislead consumers and deceive the government. We will continue to pursue the individuals responsible for orchestrating this damaging conspiracy.
Now here you will be rewarded in Germany. And the way to be rewarded is that the guys, the politicians, they are on your side, because they are on the board of directors of same company Volkswagen, where from both companies the people are in, and the state of Lower Saxony owns about 20% of that Volkswagen, which is one of the biggest car producing companies. And because they don't want that their own shares being lowered, so they are being more on looking for the profit of that company instead of looking for their people, what they're supposed to look for. So now what happened is that in Germany there is now a regulation which comes in Hamburg, weil in Hamburg kommt eine Einführung, dass du nicht mehr an mehreren Straßen fahren darfst. Ne?
Genau, also es ist tatsächlich so, in Hamburg gibt es 2 Straßen, da dürfen diese Fahrzeuge ab Euro 5 nicht mehr durchfahren. Das heißt, sie müssen größere Strecken dann umfahren, dann ist der Stau nur woanders, 2 Straßen weiter. Ja. Aber es hilft natürlich nichts. Also wir sind jetzt betrogen, dürfen mit dem Diesel nicht mehr überall fahren. Und haben natürlich einen hohen Wertverlust, Auto ist noch die Hälfte wert.
So now what happens then with his car is that he has now some streets in Hamburg where he has to drive for work, and for other things he can't drive anymore. So he has to do bigger detours, but definitely on those streets they're not been driving anymore. Those streets are blocked. But those streets are not blocked by the politicians who block those streets. Those streets are blocked because there was a non-profit organization which sued the cities, and they have to sue every single city. And these non-profit organizations, they are being, through the years, are pushing through that the non-driving permission, because of the higher rates of toxic gases, are not permitted in those cities according to EU regulations, that these streets or these portions of the cities are locked down.
Stresemannstraße is one of Hamburg's busiest roads, and from now on only diesels meeting the strict Euro 6 exhaust emission standards are allowed here. But so far little has changed. Even older diesel trucks are still out and about. It's not an easy ban to implement. With no windscreen badges, police can't readily see if a vehicle meets the required standards. The second ban is here, on the 600-metre-long Max Brauer Allee, home to 272 people. The aim is to drastically reduce the area's high nitrogen oxide levels. Yet thousands of people, those living along the bypass routes, could be worse off as a result. Hamburg's Environment Minister, however, rejects such claims. As yet, there are no penalties in place. Initially, police will just inform drivers of the new rules, and after a transition period, car drivers will be fined €25 and truck drivers 3 times as much.
So then his car cannot drive anymore. He has less value for his car because nobody wants to buy this car because you can drive it, right? So, and or you can drive it in those cities. So the other portion of that is that also that you got a letter from time about your software change, right, for the car. Is that right? So über deine
ja,
Software.
Genau. Ich musste ein Software-Update machen, wurde praktisch angeschrieben.
Ja.
Und da hätte ich diese Software nicht machen lassen, also da bin ich erpresst worden, hätte man mir die Betriebserlaubnis entzogen letztendlich.
So now what happened there is there was supposedly a software update which is actually saving him maybe 2 or 3% of the emissions for his car, and he had to mandatory go into the garage to service and to do the software update. And if he wouldn't have done the software update, actually the Federal Motor Vehicle Division wrote to him that if you don't do that, we revoke your license for the car. And actually the cause of that came from the automotive industry because they produced the cars with this condition. And this is very absurd or abstract construction for that Jolle now has to suffer for this case, in this case, and many of the other diesel owners have to do that as well.
The cars in Germany are still driving, or at least some of them are still driving in most of the areas. What happened to the cars in the US? I will link a movie at the end to an oversight for an area in Pontiac, Michigan, the Silver Dome. And the picture what I have is an aerial picture from Google, which only has a few vehicles, but the video itself will show a whole amount of vehicles being parked there at the Silver Dome. And I will also show you all of the vehicles being parked there in many locations, like in Pikes Peak. That's a famous racetrack which goes uphill. In Victorsville, California, Pikes Peak is in Colorado. In Victorsville, California, at Volkswagen has, I think, a research or storage center there. And in many places in the United States where all of those cars are being parked and they are not driving anymore because they are causing harm to people who are breathing that air. And that is the difference between what happened in Germany, well, they are still driving and only excluded from some of the areas in big cities, and in the US, where they've been stopped to drive until they have been repaired to a level what the agencies are being agreed on, actually to the levels what they are promised in the first place.
So, and then he got another letter, da ist noch ein anderen Brief gekommen, ja?
Genau, vor wenigen Tagen hatte ich den im Briefkasten und das war ganz kurios. Da hatte mich das Kraftfahrtbundesamt wieder angeschrieben und hat gesagt, herzlichen Glückwunsch, gehen Sie zu Ihrem Vertragshändler und da können Sie Ihr Auto tauschen gegen ein anderes Fahrzeug, das umweltfreundlicher ist. Das klingt natürlich alles hurra, ich kann hingehen, mein Auto austauschen, ja. Aber ganz im Gegenteil, ich würde dann nur eine bestimmte Summe für mein jetziges Auto bekommen und müsste natürlich viele tausend Euro draufzahlen, um mein anderes Auto zu bekommen. Und letztendlich war das nur ein Werbeschreiben, das ich vielleicht von VW erwarte, aber nicht von meiner Regierung.
So now from the Federal Authority or Federal Motor Vehicle Division, he got a promotion letter, which actually is not supposed to be written from the car companies, but the promotion letter tells them that, hey, you can exchange your car for another car, and it's not for any electric car, for another gas guzzler car, which might lose their license in 2 years later, just to exchange it and to get maybe 2,000 or 3,000 euro off of that car, and then you had to spend another 15,000 euros or 20,000 euros in order to buy a new car and extend this situation of gas burning and kind of polluting. And they are helping actually the industry in order to sell more cars. So this makes that story more wild or even more crazy. So while where you get invited in the US to exchange your car for a real car, which is as a permitted car, or to exchange your car and get money for that and get reimbursed, and also for that what you're losing, the money what you're losing in the US, and where the managers get in prison in the United States. Here the managers are getting a reward from the Federal Motor Vehicle Division to write a free letter to their owners to go to the car dealer and get another car for a little bit money more. So that is a very weird situation, and this is what's happening in Germany. So that's the difference between a car, a diesel car when you buy it in Germany or in some portions of Europe, and a diesel car when you get it in the United States, and what rights you have. And I think the cars are permitted and they are capable of changing them because they are clean. Oh, not, let me say not clean, but there are better diesels with a better better check of emissions and not so much nitro oxides emissioning, being in the US and driving in the US, converted from car companies there, but they are refusing to convert the cars here in Europe, and they have enough support from their own team, because many of the politicians are in the board of directors of those car companies.
Let me extend to that as well. Who are the members of the board of directors of Volkswagen? So Mitglieder des Aufsichtsrats. There is Hans-Dieter Pötsch is the lead. Then there are multiple members from Qatar, minister or members of the board of directors. And there are secretaries of the union. There are people of the union, members of the work council, lawyers. But what is most disturbing is that there are members of the government of Lower Saxony, where Volkswagen's headquarters is. One of them is Dr. Bernd Altusmann. He is a Lower Saxony Minister of Economy, Work, Traffic and Digitalization. And also the Minister-President of Lower Saxony, Stefan Weil. Both of them are from two different parties even. And I think they own about 20% of Volkswagen shares. So who should you now protect? Your own people you are representing, or your shares and your wealth being in the company Volkswagen? That's your decision to make and that's their decision to make. I will list you all of those members, and I can show you some of the pictures of them. And it's one after the next one is as Hans-Dieter Pötsch, Dr. Hussein Ali Abdullah, Dr. Hessa Sultan Al-Jabbar, Dr. Altusmann, as mentioned, Birgit Dietze, Dr. Hans-Peter Fischer, Marianne Heiß, Jörg Hofmann, Uwe Hück, Johann Jakob Klo, Ulrich Jakob, Dr. Luise Kiesling, Peter Mosch, Martina Murkovic, Bernd Osterloh, Dr. Jurist Hans-Michael Pietsch, Dr. Jurist Ferdinand Oliver Porsche, Dr. Referent Com Wolfgang Porsche, Altonisiak Stimoniaris, Vorsitzender des Konzernbetriebsrats, und Stefan Weil. So you do your own conclusions about how that will go out, who to represent.
So that's a little bit of a problem, and we would like to bring that forward and give you that interview. So, willst du noch irgendwie sonst was dazu sagen oder so? Oder?
Ja, also ich bin auf jeden Fall gespannt, wo die mobile Zukunft tatsächlich hingeht,
Ja.
Weil im Augenblick kann ich ja niemandem vertrauen.
Ja.
Ich muss einfach, ja,
Wenn du
fahre
jetzt-
ihn einfach weiter, solange es geht,
Ja.
weil ich halt nicht weiß, wie ist die Richtung tatsächlich. Weil bis vor ein paar Wochen hieß es, kauf dir einen Euro 6 Diesel, dann bist du safe.
Ja.
Und jetzt heißt es schon wieder, Euro 6 geht gar nicht mehr.
So now a few weeks ago they told him that buy a new diesel with an Euro 6 category should be cleaner, but as today they registered that's about the same thing, is not about to be cleaner. So wenn du jetzt ein Elektroauto kriegen würdest, würdest du das umtauschen mit ungefähr der gleichen Reichweite, ein Elektroauto für den gleichen Preis? Wenn du das kriegen
Ja,
würdest?
natürlich. Wenn das Preis-Leistung-Verhältnis identisch ist,
Ja.
so, dann könnte ich mir das auch vorstellen, umzusteigen. Aber im Augenblick sind die Elektroautos in Deutschland so teuer, ne? Man
Ja.
muss sich einen Neuwagen holen, das ist unerschwinglich für mich.
Also wenn jetzt Volkswagen dir anbieten würde, kriegt ihr ein Elektroauto derselben Type in Elektro, würdest du umtauschen, oder?
für denselben Preis?
Für denselben
klar,
Preis,
Oder
ja.
ich müsste 1, 2,
So.
3, 5.000 Euro zulegen, wäre okay.
Ja.
Aber dann ist Ende der Fahnenstange, es muss ja auch finanzierbar bleiben.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, then a message for the German automotive industry. If they would change that all to electric, and in a comparable price, he would gladly return his car, not causing more pollution, not causing more CO2, and drive electric in the future. Hey, Jolle, thank you for the interview.
Rolf, gerne.
Vielen Dank, ja? Okay.
So when you made your conclusion, there is one thing I want to mention. That was a former president of the Court of Justice in Germany who said that in Munich in November 12, 2018, that the actions of the federal government and some states in that Dieselgate is now hard to understand. That the government does not enforce the law. And that's really a problem. In the particular incident there, when some members of the society are being allowed to do what they want to, then it is not for the justice of all. And in order to have justice, which is in the German constitution, the Justice for All, Article 56 in the constitution, is important to keep a peace within the country. And if that is not adhered, he said also that nobody should slip out the law without any sanctions. Otherwise, the result will be that the prohibitions in the law are only for the stupid ones, for the weak ones, and for those ones who are ideal and obey to the law. So nobody is actually, in this case, above the law, and this will result in that the current government are not being trusted anymore. One enters a very dangerous path when the federal ministers get to protect the auto industry despite the clear misconduct in facts. What I want to say to that is, when you are in Germany installing a different set of wheels and they are not being registered, you are being penalized. And when the big car companies do that in millions, there are being years over, and they should have been convicted already, and it was promised that should have been convicted to the end of 2018, and nothing has happened. So what it said is that the policy sets binding exhaust emissions limits, but is not willing to able to ensure the compliance. And then the policy wonders if the courts are complying with the current European and national laws and having to give driving bans. So when the politics are wondering why that's the case, because the law has been made like that. What they are forgetting is they have an oath to the office. And the oath of the office is to avert the damage from German people, from the German people. The people suffer harm if they are exposed to that avoidable exposure to pollutants, because the state authorities fail or even actively discourage it by approving the Volkswagen software updates and not enforcing the law that they have to clean their emissions for that. So that's a little bit discouraging, but what is encouraging is what I want you to read there as well. And these are voices from other people. And for example, Elon Musk asked about his opinion with the scandal, which will weaken the consumer's view on green technologies. He responds saying that he expects that the opposite to happen. What Volkswagen is really showing is that they have been reached the limit of what is possible with diesel and petrol. The time has to come over to move to a new generation of technologies. And that's similar as an analyst Fish has been coming to the same conclusions. Actually, what happened is that in December 2015, a group of businessmen and environmental leaders, including Elon Musk, addressed an open letter to CARB this is the California Air Resource Board, urging the agency to absolve VW from recalling the 85,000 diesel vehicles affected by the scandal in the US, and urged that VW instead be asked to allocate resources to accelerate the rollout of zero-emission vehicles. Cure the air, not the cars. The letter, in which includes a 5-step legal enforcement plan, argues that the course of action could result in 10 of 1 or a greater reduction in pollutant emissions as compared to the pollution associated with the diesel fleet cheating, while suggesting that the affected vehicles on the road in California represent an insignificant portion of total vehicles, promote to zero-emission vehicles, build sustainable transportation infrastructure, and retrofit older diesel models with superior emission control.
Da knattert jetzt weg. That's the sound of the diesel. So that was the sound of the diesel and the story that comes with it. Explain it a little better. Instead of parking the car so close, I bought at a Home Depot an extension cable for high power voltage or for 3-phase voltage. And as you can see here, all the way from here down here, so that we can shut down the light, close the garage door, and have the power cable coming all along to the car here. And then you see the connectors, they are looking a little bit different in Europe. It's a Euro 2 connector.
I pressed and say, I went and said.